Hello, I'm David Breeden. I'm the senior minister at First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis, a historically humanist congregation, and this is Coffee and Wisdom. This week, we've been talking about the concept of ritual, where it comes from and where it is now, and maybe where it's going. I've been asking a very simple question, ritual, what is it good for? One place to examine the idea of ritual is to go back to the oldest continuous ritualistic system that people have, and that is Taoism. That's the oldest continuous ritual system because China has preserved a great deal of its cultural past in ways that most human societies have not done. So we have a fairly consistent record back 5,000 to 6,000 years. Taoism probably started out as a shamanistic practice, and it's just a part of a continuum that continues to go today. I have here a temple to the three blessings of Taoism, and that is, and these the three guys here, we've got compassion, frugality, and humility. Compassion, frugality, and humility. Not bad things to be shooting for, as the Taoists think. Well, one of the things that's been part of the Taoist tradition and is very highly ritualized is the Green Dragon Society. This fellow, you can see, has all kinds of ritualistic things going on as part of the Green Dragon Society. Most of us know the Green Dragon Society best because Bruce Lee was a member of it. And yes, it is a martial arts tradition within Taoism that goes back, we don't know how long, because it's a secret, right? But Bruce Lee, born in San Francisco and in Chinatown, bringing the direct Taoist way of thinking into American popular culture. Well, let's listen to Bruce Lee. This is one of those memes you can find all over the internet. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. You put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water in a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put water in a teapot, it becomes a teapot. Now, water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Okay? Very smart, very famous phrase from Bruce Lee. And yes, one of the formative ways to think about the Taoist martial arts. But guess what? Yep, it's actually straight out of the Tao Te Ching, the oldest of the Taoist writings. The highest good is like that of water. The goodness of water is that it benefits the 10,000 creatures, yet itself does not scramble, but is content with the places that all people disdain. It is this that makes water so near to the way, the Taoist way, of course. Water seeks out the lowest points. Water changes and is malleable. So be like water, and that's the way the Tao talks about human life is being part of and observing nature to learn how we should act in the world. Taoism is dated back to the time of the Yellow Emperor. And the Yellow Emperor is one of those mythical people who may or may not have actually lived. He's probably, well, at least in the mythology and the legend, is a little bit too good to be true. Here is the Yellow Emperor over here bowing and meeting up with a great Taoist sage. And this is the way the Yellow Emperor is usually shown, depicted with this interesting little flat board with the beads on it as his headdress. Not quite sure what that means, but hey, he possibly, if he was alive, if this is based on a real person, he reigned sometime in the 2500s before the Common Era, and that is the time of the Mesopotamian kingdoms. So that should give you some indication of what's going on here. This is the beginning of agricultural kingdoms all over the world, and he happens to be part of the legend of that time period in China. One of the books that he is credited with writing is the Yellow Emperor's classic of medicine, the Nijing Shuwen. Well, did he really write it? No, this is really an accretion of folk medicines. But when we talk about Chinese medicine, this is where it begins. the Chinese Taoist idea of healing. The Yellow Emperor's Classic of Medicine. And yes, you can get it in a new translation. He also wrote a book of political discourses, notes on the Hongdi Sijing. No, he probably didn't write that one either. But again, it is an accretion of Chinese wisdom about how politics should be working. So here's this guy we're going to call the Yellow Emperor, and he's beginning all of these great ideas. So besides beginning the practice of medicine and politics, the Yellow Emperor is credited with inventing writing, clothing, housing, musical instruments, domesticated animals, the calendar, and football. Soccer, of course, in American terms. So he got around quite a bit. You do get the idea that he is being credited with the beginnings of what has often been called civilization. It's the beginning of the agricultural kingdoms that's ended the hunter-gatherer way of life and began a different form of life. Huang is his name, which means yellow, and it probably originally meant rain-making shaman. And this is part of the tie-in to Taoism and ritual, and all the way back is that probably the emperors began as shamanistic figures, and as the empires and kingdoms grew, these people then become the ruling class of the country. The Yellow Emperor is a symbol of Han nationalism. You probably know that the Hans are the largest ethnic group in China. Even today, and Han nationalism is a thing. This is the temple of the Yellow Emperor, still exists today. You can go there and look, it has a whole lot of yellow going on. Why all the yellow, and why does that matter? Well, yellow in Chinese culture is the soil or the land. When we talk about the various kinds of, the four elements and all of that, yellow is the symbol for the soil or the land. So you can see why that would tie into Chinese nationalism as a way of reflecting this reality. But even the Yellow Emperor did not invent Taoism. He learned Taoism, according to the legend, from the sage Guangqinzi, one who knows all. And this is a depiction of Guangqinzi, one who knows all. And their meeting is described as graceful. You will see this all over Chinese art. The Yellow Emperor coming to the great sage, paying his obeisance. In some of the stories, the great sage says, Emperor, go over there, live in a grass hut for a few months, and then get back to me after you have achieved perfect Taoist humility. And indeed, the Emperor goes and does that. Here's another painting. You can look at all this, just, type in Yellow Emperor finds Taoism or whatever, and you're going to find it all over the internet. These great old Chinese artworks in which you have the meeting of the Yellow Emperor with the great sage of Taoism. So Taoism is seen in this way as something pre-existent even to the beginnings of Chinese civilization. I want to read a little poem to you here that it's a traditional poem, goes way back, about that meeting. Sitting alone in a secluded bamboo grove, playing kin, and the translator doesn't even try to translate the word kin, Q-I-N, because it means humility and compassion and illumination and rainmaking and grace and all kinds of stuff. So he's just there doing kin and intoning at length. So these guys get together and they talk about all of the deep meanings of life and humility and that kind of thing. Deep in the forest, there is anonymity. So you're not going to be a great Yellow Emperor, even in the forest, facing up to the Taoists, the idea of meeting and being part of the natural world. And though moonlight brings mutual illumination, so they are illuminated, these guys reach nirvana or whatever you want to call that, enlightenment. And what they established then, according to Chinese custom, is Li. Li, a Chinese character that means the gift that ritual gives. And this becomes very important within the Chinese culture. Comes right out of Taoism. It goes into Confucianism, which is a later idea of how to act in the world. But Confucianism is built on the idea of Li, that we act in ritualistic ways in order for society to be ordered within the natural universe. And so there you have it. Within the Chinese custom, anyway, ritual itself creates the good life. And so ritual is pretty darn important. That's what I wanted to mention today, to think a little bit about Taoism and what ritual gives us. Definitely, speaking of ritual, we are back to our Bibles and Beer on Wednesday nights at 7 o'clock Central Time. And tonight we'll be talking about Getting Judgy, the book of Judges. And tonight, Gideon. And of course, Gideon does come and blow his horn. And you can read all about that in the book of Judges in chapters 6 through 8. You can help us out by going to firstunitarian.org/donate. Thanks a whole lot, and we'll be back with some more ritual tomorrow. Thanks.